Chat, I've got some bad news. This is very important. You shouldn't laugh at this. We're very serious. We want to be honest with our audience here, and we don't want to falsely advertise or lead you astray. And we have to admit, we've been telling you some lies about Linode. You see, we told you that you could get $60 credit or 2 months at Linode using our code, and that wasn't true. It's $100.
Yes, that's right. You can build your own VPN. We did the WireGuard tutorial on that. You can deploy on the Kubernetes engine. You can have your own cloud storage thing that's like Amazon S3, but cheaper. You can deploy compute, whatever you need to do. And even like the $5 a month instances are perfectly fine for running a VPN.
Yeah. I did the 2 gigabyte, but I think I could have gotten away with the Nano.
Yeah.
If I had done that with the
Now, there were a couple complaints. It's like, oh, well, what about browser fingerprinting? Yes, we're going to cover that. Don't worry.
Yeah, there was nothing but complaints. And I covered that in the video. The VPN does not protect you from everything. You do need a variety of things, but it is one tool.
Is Linode more or less evil than Time Warner Media? And I think the answer is obvious, that they're much less evil. They're not even on the evil radar.
I don't think Linode will sell your data.
No.
They will, if they get a warrant, yeah, okay, but I don't think they'll sell your data.
I don't think they're actively mining your DNS requests to sell you stuff.
If we find out that they are, we'll blast them for it.
Yeah, but
we'll cover that on the news.
But this week's episode of the news is brought to you by Linode. So check out our tutorials if you're thinking about leveling up your skills and doing fun stuff with it, because it's a genuinely good service for hosting and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you're running a lot of video through your VPN, then you might eat it through it pretty quick. But I ran that VPN for a couple of days just with my regular browsing. Didn't use very much money at all out of that $100.
It's like $3.85. Not that, even.
Yeah.
Hello, chat. We're here with another week of news. It's officially September now. And we're here with yeah.
It's March 184th, 2020.
We're here with government and security news, and I have a very important update about my pumpkin. Look at him. He's fresh off the vine.
Hang on.
I've got him up in in my screen.
Hang on.
We have a photo.
But you're not on the screen.
Oh no!
We made a terrible error. There you go.
Hey, here he is. He's roughly smaller than my head.
I don't want to cast shade on your lovely pumpkin, but I was expecting something a little larger.
He looks a little premature.
No, he's totally ready. I think that growing him in a container probably stunted his growth, but that's all I can do in an apartment. So
he needed vitamins. It was like me when I was little. It's like, he ain't growing right. Oh, let's give him some vitamins. Oh Lordy, he's growing.
I have put Tums on my plants, so they need that calcium treatment.
Do you give them any kind of nutrients or anything like that?
When I first planted them, I put some fertilizer in the ground with them, but other than that, I haven't. For my tomatoes and my peppers, I've had to do calcium treatments just so they don't get the end rot, but other than that, they've been fine.
Do you think possibly I know stress is really critical for plants. Like if plants are stressed, they will stop growing. Could it be that dangling above his sure death for weeks on end could have presented a stressful situation?
I don't think so. Because look how healthy is he? Turned orange. He's hollow.
We'll build a level 1 project. Will be like a plant voice translator in the future, and then when Chris is doing that again, it's like, all right, let's see if it's working. And we pointed at Pumpkin 2.0 that's dangling, and it's just
if we were trying to reproduce the dangling pumpkin, we'd never succeed at it.
I didn't think we were going to get any at all because we kept losing the flowers. Like the male flowers would die, and then the female flowers would die. And I was like, well, maybe it just can't be done in a container, but. He's proof it can be done in a container. You can grow a pumpkin. It's just like a little 5-gallon bucket.
I think probably what happened is that one flower that made a pumpkin is the one that couldn't see through your door to the TV, and it didn't know what was happening in the world.
It was like, well, okay.
The other ones were like, no, we won't subject a child to this.
What a lovely day. What's going on in the world? Oh no.
Now let's get right into that lovely news. And let's talk about, still locked down. That's still a thing. A lot of other stuff going on, but yeah, we're still just at home watching it, and it feels surreal. And when you're at home watching it, actually, the element in my oven burned out. And I've never been more aware of the fact that I'm in a place where I can't order any food. It's really frustrating. Imagine if your refrigerator broke during all this. You couldn't get it repaired.
I would have to switch to like the emergency backup fridge.
That's so Kentucky.
Backup.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's also kind of like it's like a half white trash, half like rich suburban.
It's not pure Kentucky unless it's on the porch.
Yeah. No. Totally. Yeah.
So anyway, you might want to get some food ordered at home, and you're thinking to yourself, hey, times are tough. People, especially these gig economy people, they're getting crushed. Let me throw them a few dollars. And so the little tip slider, it's like 15%. I'm gonna slide it up to 20. I'm a generous and loving person. And then you click. But what you didn't know was this.
The D.C. Attorney General sues Instacart, claiming it deceived customers into thinking service fees would go to workers. Yeah, turns out technology, when it was being used behind closed doors, it's like, hey, we'll just make our application not actually give that tip to those gig workers, and that's illegal.
Now, they mentioned, back in the day, when Instacart started, that was a tip. But here, so Instacart in 2016, I'll look this website hijacks my highlight.
You scroll. Oh.
Ugh.
Oh, CNBC.
They paid somebody to do that. Why would you do that?
And to get those shares. And so they replaced the tip section with an optional service fee. Now the interface looked the same. I think the wording was a little different. But the slider was still there, and it still defaulted to 10%. And it was like, hey, every other time I order food online, that's how I give a tip. But no, that money went straight to Instacart. The workers didn't get it. And they were like, hey, if you set that to 10% and then you didn't give your delivery driver any tip, you're the problem. No tipper.
Why would you tip Instacart?
Because they're so wonderful.
Meanwhile, the Euros in our channel chat are like, is this some sort of joke that I'm too European to understand?
I think they make plenty of jokes about that. It is a ridiculous system.
It is.
Yeah.
Pay them.
I don't know how you stop it, though. I mean, because if you if we all stopped paying taxes, we could stop it. But you can't organize people on that level.
No.
So you can't organize people.
You don't want to screw over someone who's like making your food either. Like just because it's like, well, I don't believe in tipping, and it's like,
that's what I'm saying.
It's making $3 an hour. So
yeah, you're just an asshole.
Yeah.
if you're the tip of the spear there. So I don't know what we do about it. You can. Some people I've seen like they'll put 0 on the card, and then like secretly try to give the server money.
Yeah, that's a pretty good strategy.
That would work in this situation fine. But then I think if they get caught doing that, they're probably going to get fired.
Yeah. Well, I guess with the Instacart thing, how would they ever know?
No, I'm saying at a restaurant, though.
Yeah, at a restaurant.
Yeah.
The restaurant, sometimes the restaurant will take like 5 or 10% or whatever, which should be illegal.
What if we came up with a system of tokens that weren't actually money? But could only be used for tipping.
Could just raise the minimum wage and then say that.
But they don't have to.
Food.
They don't have to pay a minimum wage, right? Because somehow that.
Yeah, but like, why
system,
not just change that? Like, make them pay minimum wage, then tipping would not be necessary.
Well, good luck changing that.
Krista, that's too political. We've got to talk about the technology of Instacart.
You're gonna lobby for that. You're gonna go against big restaurant. They're gonna kill Little Roo.
They just murder her in cold blood.
Speaking of big corporations and their influence on the political process, sometimes they don't like the way that court decisions go. And when that happens, they form these gangs, basically, and try to influence the world.
Carmakers urge the FTC to fight Qualcomm ruling. So I learned some stuff in this that I didn't realize. But the automakers are saying, yeah, we think that Qualcomm is like, while they're not following the letter of anti-competitive law, we think that the end result is a harm to consumers, and we think that is covered under anti-consumer law. So they're basically saying, we think that the courts have erred here. And it's Tesla, Ford Motor, Honda, Daimler, Intel, and MediaTek. Well, Intel, I don't trust. Like, Intel does not have clean hands with respect to Qualcomm. I mean, they were basically receiving trade secrets from Qualcomm through Apple illegally. That deserves its own investigation. But the automakers here do actually make some interesting points with regard to what Qualcomm is doing with their patents and technology. But if they are the best in the world, isn't the patent system a time-limited monopoly for precisely those reasons?
So they make the point that, I mean, why do car companies care? Well, cars are going to become big phones, basically. And the car companies are realizing that they are going to be paying Qualcomm a ton of licensing fees.
The car companies are realizing that Intel's 5G modem ain't that great.
And so they're trying to get ahead of it because, I mean, you know, every product you make, of course, you know, Apple and all the phone makers are already dealing with this, but every product you make, take a portion of that and give it to Qualcomm. And it's non-negotiable. Because what are you going to do?
It seems like these companies are well funded and well organized enough that they could create the standard. Like they could form a co-op and then spend billions of dollars researching these standards and then create the standards as a co-op, which is, you know, one of the things that they accused Qualcomm of doing was, it's like, hey, they helped develop the standards and then they own the standard and they can make money that way. And it's like, yeah, that wasn't done for free. That's their business model.
But they do the exact opposite of that. Everything down to like intermittent wipers
They just steal.
is licensed.
Yeah.
No, you can't steal it.
Well, they did actually, but that's fine.
So their business model is exactly like Qualcomm's.
Just from the other end.
Huh.
Yeah.
TikTok, you know, that whole thing is still going on, and they are now banned. And you know, it's like, who's going to buy us?
Well,
we're ready to be plucked.
The real ban doesn't happen until September 15th.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's decided.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to fight it any ways you can.
TikTok sues the U.S. government over Trump ban. The main argument in their lawsuit is that they were denied due process. We'll see how that works out for them.
It's a decent argument.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of just got on Twitter and said, this is happening, and then signed a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Well, that is the way we govern now. And speaking of China, the Cold War, trade war, what do we call it?
Whatever's happening right now, the
It's kind
decay of the U.S. I don't.
all in one is still raging on. And we're figuring out that we have a lot of former Chinese nationals in our education system. And when you look under the hood a little bit, maybe they're not quite as red, white, and blue as we'd hoped.
Texas A&M professor accused of secretly collaborating with China amid NASA work. So this is somebody that actually worked at the university in China from like 2011 until sometime. And he came here and he's doing some work for NASA, but in the work for NASA, it said, hey, don't share any of this information with Chinese nationals, Chinese universities, Chinese educators, China. And it turns out that they might have been doing that. So this is a court case to follow because, you know, you wouldn't think that what NASA is doing is really like super secret or like government secret or national security or anything like that. But nevertheless, the feds are really interested in this case for some reason.
I think interstellar rockets can be used for other purposes. You know, the whole World War II thing. So, yeah, maybe keep that a secret.
Going to the moon on the wings of the Third Reich, is that what you say?
So, Krista, this next article, my God, this web design.
I was caught on the image they used for the last article. They have the professor's image, but they also included like his professional page on the website, and then they blurred out the phone and email. But I just looked it up, and it's still there. Why would you make it so
it's not
I know that his
doing
information's available, and then look it up? Like,
should we call him live on the news?
hey, we heard you're a traitor.
We know what you're up to, Chang. So yeah, this next one, Krista, this BuzzFeed article. Let's enjoy this with the chat. So this is what you get when you go to the page, and it's like, oh, what is this web page broken? Let me scroll. Okay, well, its background is fixed. Oh, okay, that's not the title of the article. That's kind of getting us there, though. Let's see what's next. And oh, you're bleeding this out to me like 5 scrolls at a time. Is that what we're doing? And then finally, oh, look, when you scroll back up, you do get the article.
This is very frustrating. I feel like there's a better way to.
I think maybe a GIF would have been a better choice here.
Yeah. Well, because
Maybe.
at first I'm reading the text. I'm so focused on the text, I don't notice that the buildings are changing in the background. I had to scroll back up to realize what it was trying to do.
Finally, here, I guess, is their actual title of the article. Anyway, it's about China.
China's building some concentration camps, it looks like.
Built.
Yeah, Bill passed
They are built. They're complete. One of them went up in 6 months. How long does it take to build a prison in America?
At least 10 years.
Yeah, ages.
It took 2 years to reopen the prison that was shut down where I lived, and there was a skeleton crew there during the 2 years. Like, why would it take 2 years to reopen something that had been maintained while it was closed?
Because the contract was for a certain amount, and if you don't spend it all, you don't get to keep it all. So this is not really news, I guess. We have known about this for a while, but it is kind of pointing out the massive number of these things. I don't know, how big are Chinese counties? Are they comparable to our counties?
I think they're larger.
So
I don't know.
every one of them has one of these in that region. I think it's the western region, right?
That's not good. And this is
Yeah, it looks like it.
this is predominantly
What was that?
Uyghur Muslim. What?
What was that noise?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What noise?
I don't think it's predominantly. I think it's pretty much just...
No, the article said that there were a bunch of other minorities that were caught up in this, but those are the big ones.
So, yeah. And they say... So China says they are being de-radicalized and that they are, basically terrorists, and they need to do this. But according to this article, or, what is this, BuzzFeed? These are some of the offenses that can get you there, which seems a little heavy-handed.
Downloading WhatsApp is banned in China, maintaining ties with family abroad, engaging in prayer, and visiting foreign websites.
Concentration camp. We talked last week about the forced labor that seems to be going on, and yeah, pretty dark. And they're not really denying that these exist. They're just saying these people deserve it.
Yeah, I don't... They also mentioned forced sterilization, which is...
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, there's
That
also
one.
What kind of crime punishment is that? I mean, I can understand that if for like someone like a severely mentally handicapped adult. That other than that, I don't.
They've done that in like child predator crimes. That kind of makes sense. If it's like a multiple offender.
Yeah, but those are
there's
edge
a cool
cases.
quote in here though talking about there's a pregnant woman in shackles, another woman was nursing a baby. Like,
Yeah, it's weird
that's
because
horrific.
like they do the forced birth control too, because they don't segregate male and female. So you're in there with your family, which is weird because you wouldn't think that the entire family would have committed the crimes, right?
It's almost like
You think the husband was looking at some like radicalized website, and the wife just like strolled by and looked over, and she was like, "Oh God, no!"
The U.S. It also is mentioned that the whole forced labor aspect of this, and companies like Lenovo are caught up in that. So we talked last week about how some of the laptops that students will be getting, going back to school, they may have been manufactured by this kind of labor. And it's like, in the U.S. we kind of have that too for people that are in prison, but I don't think we have the organist harvesting here in the U.S.
Yet.
Yeah.
The Celebrite Corporation. Yeah, remember them? They hack phones. And they hack phones for governments. They're not black hat, as it were. They're white hat, except it's stained with red sometimes. And because they tend to work with some despotic governments, including that of the United States and many European countries. Which is weird because the way this works is they're saying that this is a human rights issue when China does it. But it's happening here.
Yeah.
But when China does it.
Israeli phone hacking company faces court fight over sales to Hong Kong. The workers inside the company did not join to help the Chinese dictatorship, says one human rights lawyer. So things are getting kind of dicey in Hong Kong. We'll learn later about a guy that is going to prison for 5 months for having too many zip ties on his person in Hong Kong.
And I guess, the argument obviously is going to be that if Celebrite busts you in the U.S., you don't suffer the same, you don't get forced sterilization and labor camp. But at the same time,
if you build the technology, it will be abused.
Yeah, it's...
which is the thing that we're always saying.
Celebrite is obviously defending it. They're saying there's nothing wrong with it. Shut up.
We just make the tool. We don't control how people use it. I'm like, oh.
I mean, it is true, but the tool, yeah, I guess in a way we are blaming the gun there, if you really break it down. It shouldn't be up to Celebrite. It should be up to the corrupt governments. But they're corrupt.
Well, I just want a phone that's actually secure. Like, if you perfectly implement the encryption, Celebrite can't help you.
That phrase would only ever be uttered by a terrorist. So I'm going to schedule your forced sterilization for next week.
It's funny because that's actually a thing that would land me. It's like I would say something like that and be the wrong religion. Oh, I'm off to the camps with you.
Hope you like making laptops. Oh, they'd love you.
I don't understand.
Yeah, they would.
I don't understand how the State Department is aware of this and they're not,
Our State
Doing
Department?
anything?
Yeah.
Of course they're not going to do anything.
Israel could be burning children, and our State Department wouldn't say anything about it. That ain't how that works. So, yeah, things are weird in China, and they're getting weirder. And the whole U.S.-China kerfluffle is leading to a lot of the big names in manufacturing being like, yeah, this China thing, if the war gets just a little bit hotter, I worry about our profits.
Yeah.
So we should probably think about, maybe a secondary place to go. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, number 2, let's just go to Taiwan. Ooh.
Yeah, no.
Also an issue with the China situation.
Yeah.
So where can you go? An unlikely answer.
Exclusive. Foxconn and other Asian firms consider Mexico factories as China risks grow. Now, that's the headline, but the Reuters article also talks about how Foxconn is already in the process of establishing similar factories in India. So it seems like Foxconn is hedging its bets a little bit. Now, technically, Foxconn's headquarters, that's in Taiwan. That's in Taipei. But, yeah, Mexico. Hey, Mexico worked out great for Lexmark, pretty much.
Cheap labor.
Yeah. There's just... Honestly, it seems like the hesitation from a lot of these companies is that there's not enough people in Mexico to do the work, which is surprising.
But I imagine if you build the middle class, a lot of the people who are currently crossing that border will stay there.
Yeah.
And have some nice jobs, because we don't have those jobs.
No.
Now, there's one small problem in Mexico. Just a little problem.
Cartels?
Drug cartels, yeah.
Don't worry
about that.
I imagine you throw them some money, they'll be okay.
This harkens back to the days of you remember like the old Celerons, like you go to the computer show and like they would let you look through the Celerons and it's like you found the Malaysian Celeron and it's like, oh yeah, you can get the Malaysian Celeron because there was Costa Rica and there was a couple other ones and it's like, no, you don't want the Costa Rica Celeron, you want the Malaysian Celeron because those things overclock like crazy. The Malaysian, it's going to be like that with consumer goods. It's like I don't want this thing that was manufactured in Mexico. I want the one that was manufactured in Asia or vice versa. And that's going to be an interesting thing for consumer products, I think.
What if here's a conundrum for you, chat, and an engagement conundrum. What if you know that you want the best processor, the tolerance is going to be crazy, is the made in China.
Made by the concentration camp.
It's made by slave labor in China.
No. No.
You can get an extra 0.5 gigahertz. You have to ignore the human rights violations.
I would only do this like you can get your 128 core Xeon or whatever. Well, no, I mean, I guess you can get your 128 core ARM processor that's amazing, but you have to adopt a Uyghur Muslim family. That might not be terrible.
It's actually really frustrating if you are interested in trying to like purchase things that are made ethically, because in terms of electronics, there's literally nothing that isn't made in China.
Yeah. Well,
literally nothing. Like even just weather radios.
Yeah,
not made in China.
If you just break it down, it's like I want these. I'm gonna you can. There's tons of stuff that's made in Taiwan, but a lot of the raw materials will come from China and other places. So,
but if you look into the food situation, that's gonna break your heart too.
Yeah,
because a lot of that's coming from some dark places.
Yeah,
especially chocolate.
But
you can buy fair trade chocolate though. That's a little easier.
Isn't that? It's way more expensive. I don't think a lot of the big companies
if you don't have a lot of disposable income, it's impossible. But if you have a little bit of disposable income, you can buy fair trade chocolate.
Are there even fair trade bananas? Because I don't think so.
No. Produce is difficult to track. Grow your own if you can.
Bananas.
Level 1 pumpkin. No, there's a fruit that grows here. I actually found one yesterday on a hike called a pawpaw that is like a mix between a banana and a papaya. And they are native to North America, but they're very difficult to ship, so they've never really taken off. But you can find them in the forests around here.
You're not supposed to be taking items that you find in the forest, Krista.
I was in an area you could. But the pawpaw was underripe, so it didn't really matter.
There were so many of those trees around the house that I grew up in, and but you could only there was like a 3-week period where we were making like pies and stuff out of them, and I always look forward to that part of the year because it was all so good. But it was like from the time the first one was ready to the time they were all rotten and like varmints and insects had gone nuts was a very short period of time.
Yeah, it's actually right now. So like now is the time to find pawpaws if you're in like the South here in the States.
Isn't that really just like the curse of the banana? It's green till it's black.
Yeah.
So the whole censorship thing is not just exclusive to China. The Thai government, which just recently got a new king, is also being a little heavy-handed with the online censorship.
Facebook blocks group critical of Thai monarchy amid government pressure. So there were 1 million people in this group. The Thai government thought it was getting a little out of hand. They asked Facebook to block it, and they did, because that complies with local law, because apparently criticizing the monarchy in Thailand is against the law.
They had the name of what that was called. Laissez something or other. And can't do it. This is the Thai king who was those crazy pictures. Remember those crazy pictures?
Oh, the shirtless pictures? Yeah.
Didn't the people love his dad? And then
right.
He took over.
He was very... Yeah, and then they're not as much a fan of this guy.
Oh, it's the Lenin-Stalin problem all over again.
So, watch your back. Facebook says they don't want to do this, but their hands are tied. What are you going to do? And another reason that Facebook has to be sad about some government actions this week is in France.
I think this is happiness. Facebook has paid more than $110 million in back taxes in France. So this is 10 years of taxes. There was an audit, and the audit basically said, hey, Facebook, you can't structure your taxable income this way. Facebook, to their credit, didn't actually do that much creative accounting, like the mental gymnastics required. It didn't seem to me like they had gone that far off the deep end, but 10 years of taxes, Facebook was supposed to pay a little less than $10 million a year on average. There's some penalties in there. $110 million for 10 years of taxes for Facebook in France doesn't seem that terrible.
They sent a page in to tell Zuckerberg about that, and he looked at the note and he was like, how dare you interrupt my defrag cycle for $110 million? And he had this like, report for your 20 lashes.
And then he started smearing the sunscreen on his face again.
And then his eyes rolled up at his head, and you could hear a low whirring clicking sound.
The defrag cycle. Clearview. Remember Clearview? They're an evil company that does facial recognition.
Hideously evil use of technology.
And so Clearview has a non-disclosure agreement with the police agencies they work with. So if you work with them, you're not allowed to tell anybody about it. But they're feeling so good about their success, they told us themselves.
Clearview AI CEO says over 2,400 police agencies are using its facial recognition software. Remember how we always talk about facial recognition software being way, way inaccurate, especially with minorities? Why are we doing this? Why is this permitted?
Because it's useful. And they have pointed out, we've done previous stories, that they are definitely using that on the riots.
Yeah.
If you go out and you riot and you come home and you're looking over your goods that you looted and you're like looking back at your phone videos, it's like, oh man, I can't believe we got away with that. You might not have.
Well, people are just posting those to Twitter. They post the videos.
Yeah, people are
live
stupid.
as it's happening.
Well, you're going to be in a worse situation with that, though, because the facial recognition is going to match you to your driver's license, and then it's going to be like, what's your alibi? And it's like, I was home quarantining like you're supposed to be. I was playing Mario. Can you pull the logs off Mario? Because the Mario thing is what I'm doing. It's like, no, we think you were at a protest. That's going to happen a lot.
Do you ever think, too, though, like, when you see any of the footage of, like, the streams and stuff on Twitter of, like, people looting, do you ever think, like, did this person come here, like, because they just wanted to loot, or was this someone who was sent here so someone could get a video so it could be posted to further divide the American people?
Well, all of those people involved in the one shooting, not the latest one, the one before the 17-year-old kid, they were all from out of state. They were all there because somebody organized events.
Do you think the FBI is questioning any of those people?
I don't think there are enough people to really suss this out in any kind of fair and sane way.
But they also have to worry about, if they follow up on these crimes and it goes the way that the mob doesn't like, the mob will spread. So what do you do?
I don't even think the mob really understands what has happened, like what has transpired or what actually happened.
That's what I'm wondering, though. Like, is there potentially a foreign state that's, like, trying to rile everybody up they send in individual people to make this go viral, so to speak?
I don't think it's a foreign state, but yeah, there are clearly like 4 or 5 groups that are engaging in a proxy war.
It's bizarre.
And, along those lines, this is a little bit older article, but it just kind of points out the whole Clearview thing.
Cops in Miami and New York City are arresting protesters from facial recognition matches. Cops' use of tech is among the list of things protesters are demanding against or demonstrating against. There's a quote in there from the police that was like, hey, we can't use this unless you're committing a crime. But a lot of these places, it's like, oh, you're out after curfew. That's a crime. Oh, you're jaywalking. That's also a crime. You're resisting arrest. Wait, but what? That's a crime.
I don't know about you, but I've done a lot of jaywalking in my time. So
I think the cure for jaywalking is, once we have cameras everywhere, and I'm not advocating we put cameras everywhere, but once we have them,
they're coming.
The punishment for jaywalking is the cars are allowed to hit you. That'll solve that overnight. Well, that maybe take a week.
No, it would take a while. People would still be like, well, I didn't know that was a law yet.
No, they wouldn't, because they'd be dead. That's the thing. So, security. Let's talk about security. You're online. You're using all of your, fancy security stuff. You're staying safe. You're doing everything right. But guess what? You're not doing everything right.
No.
Because it's the patterns that will betray you.
Identifying people by their browsing histories by Bruce Schneier on security. You should check this out because just innocuous things, a million innocuous things that your browser is allowed to do programmatically can fingerprint you. Like it can check your resolution. It knows like how many monitors you have. It knows what plugins you have installed. It knows to a certain extent what websites you visited before because it can do a little bit of history sniffing. With that, you can easily fingerprint a web browser. And
I think you're combining these two stories.
Yeah.
That was your history.
Well, yeah, and a quarter of the Alexa top 10 websites are using browser fingerprinting scripts to fingerprint you. So in addition to sniffing your history, all of the other stuff. So yeah, this one's from ZDNet, not just Bruce Schneier's blog. So yeah, this is bad.
Now some modern browsers are starting to block this, although they point out, it's an arms race.
Yeah.
So the more stuff they block, the more they come up with on the marketing side to defeat it.
Yeah, what's really driving this is a misunderstanding by ad agencies that there continues to be value in doing this type of advertising. What's really happening is we're sort of returning to the old model of if you want to advertise to readers of the New York Times, you're going to have to advertise on the New York Times. We can't play games with analytics anymore.
And among all of these happenings in the world, from Kenosha to Hong Kong, large groups of people outside doing stuff, and you want to track them. How do you do that? It takes specialized equipment. Lucky for us, we're constantly launching new and more powerful pieces of those equipment into the orbit.
Modern spy satellites in an age of space wars. We included this story so that you can read about all the fun things that we can do from space. This article, in a very thinly veiled kind of way, talks about how these satellites are able to observe cell phone conversations from space. It also talks about imaging, how like they can take one image and the image is gigabytes in size. There was another story that talked about how the satellites on here are able to read the headlines off a newspaper in Central Park in New York. So,
and you're thinking, oh, these little like those little Starlink guys, little adorable guys. No, this one's 8 tons. How much is it per ton to get into space?
An insanely huge amount of money.
Tax dollars at work. You can't hide from it.
This is just what's declassified. Can you imagine what's classified? I mean, well, the article talks a little bit about how we can actually deduce that classified satellites are going up, which I thought was kind of funny because all of the infrastructure and support for that is not classified. So you can see the aircraft launching and it's like, oh, this aircraft isn't on a list of other aircraft. Ergo, it's got a classified mission.
That's how they found those concentration camps. Like they went to the satellite map. What's China's version of
Baidu?
I think it's Baidu, yeah. And they were like, oh, let's just cross-reference all the black squares with our version of the map. Yep, there they are. They're the concentration camps.
They were able to figure out the internal layout of the buildings, too, because they were taking satellite images as they were being built so they could see the internal wall layouts. So a lot of tiny claustrophobic cells and corridors.
It's like, oh, there's the castration room.
Yeah.
You know how, like, here that they're getting rid of, like, they're taking prisoners out of jail if they can because of the thing, the Rona? Do you think that that's happening over there?
No.
Like,
No.
it's like, oh, it's too many people to house here. Like, we're just going to release some of you.
No, some of these news websites would have you believe that, oh, there's too many people here. Let's harvest some organs.
Oh, yeah.
Although, do you think they're kind of putting themselves in a bit of a pickle? Because on one hand, if they all were to be wiped out by disease, no big loss. But on the other hand, now they're producing items.
It's the U.S. paradox. It's like, we can't let people out of prison. They're too valuable.
Are we the baddies?
How do we fix this? And it's like, oh, when they get out of prison, make it a situation where they have to pay to stay out of prison, but they can't get a job because they just got out of prison. Then they'll come back to prison.
You're making fun of the U.S. right there.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about I don't know how China does it. How China just, whip you up off the street, throw you back in. I don't think they make the pretense. New Zealand had a little bit of an issue with their stock exchange this week.
New Zealand Stock Exchange halted by cyber attack. At first, it was just a half an hour, and then they were able to get it back online, and then there was another outage. But it wasn't really. It was not as disruptive as you would think, but at the same time, the attackers will be emboldened. They'll return, and in greater numbers.
But they didn't make any demands. What do you think the end game is there?
Just to see how good the DDoS worked. It's like, oh yeah.
Was that they were brokering a big deal for the DDoS site, and they were like, well, we need to see what this can do.
Yeah.
They're like, well, pay attention to the New Zealand headlines in the next couple of days.
Yeah. It's like, these droids are super valuable. We need to all get back out there and capture them.
The oh no. The African world is amazingly, they kind of have these developing economies, but then they introduced the mobile phone system, and so now I think probably Africa is one of the most mobile dependent nations on the earth at this point.
Yeah.
And it's weird because they buy data in chunks as they use it, which is kind of a cool way to do it, I guess. And they do payments on there, and like the WhatsApp, I think, is one of their biggest things that they use for communication. Their whole lives revolve around these phones, and the service isn't great, but they still, they're totally focused on it. And so some of the Chinese companies, they looked at that market and they said, they don't have much money, but what they do have, I bet we could take.
Chinese-made smartphones are secretly stealing money from people around the world. So I don't know. This article is like, China, but it really just seems like some entrepreneurial person that has access to cheap phone manufacturing.
Yeah.
So the firmware image with these is preloaded with malware, which there could be a relatively innocent explanation here, which is just the supply chain is corrupted. As somebody who's ordered stuff from China a lot, it's not unusual for the device to arrive with a corrupted or compromised or backdoored firmware in some way. Like ordering a credit card processor from overseas is like, oh, we've got this ancient point of sale system that needs the such and such module for credit card processing. There's going to be a lot of listings on eBay and Alibaba for exactly that thing. But if you order it, I guarantee it is compromised in some way.
So this is Transion? How do you pronounce that?
I
got
have no
two
idea.
S's.
I spent a long time trying to figure out how to pronounce that guy's name. Moxolosi?
I'm not even going to try.
I don't know.
So, amazingly enough, Transion, you've never heard of them? They're was it fourth or fifth? I think it's fourth biggest mobile phone seller in the world. And it's because they sell smartphones for $30 American.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're basically at a loss. And this is one of the, this is a microcosm of, what is being argued against Huawei and some of the other companies. It's like these Chinese companies are basically doing this not for capitalistic reasons. They're not doing this to earn a profit. They're doing this to be in a strategic position in terms of infrastructure. And so this company is doing it to be in a strategic position in terms of data gathering and being able to exploit that. Because this talks about how the software company that was the security software company that was consulted on that said, oh yeah, it's like 91% of the transactions that are fraudulent come from these phones because they're already rooted and have malware.
So this guy, obviously if you're paying per megabyte for your data, he noticed that a lot of data was being used while he was sleeping. And not only that, he was getting notifications that was like, thank you for signing up for this paid subscription app. And he was like, I didn't sign up for that. Oh wait, yes he did. Or at least the phone did on his behalf. And he ended up losing a lot more than $30 to the phone before he rid himself of it.
It's the click farm stuff. This is also a problem for Google because you can launder money through Google ad services, for example, with stuff like this. So if you've got a huge farm of these rooted phones and somebody wants to, run some AdSense ads or whatever on Google, they could use their network of rooted phones in Africa or whatever to click your ads, and then Google will happily pay them. And it's not something that Google has been super in a hurry to fix either, because Google still gets paid from advertisers. It's only just now that advertisers are sort of warming up to this game, and in developing nations, a lot of advertisers aren't hip to that game yet. So,
well, the hot new movie Tenet released this week.
Didn't even know that.
Did anyone know that? Yeah.
Yeah, the audience is like, wow, I missed it. No, not in the U.S.
I'm abandoning the Level 1 news right now so I can go watch it. I'm not even going to finish.
Didn't release in the U.S. I guess the things are a little too hot here still for that, so they're waiting a little bit. But in a lot of the other parts of the world, it did release. And a bold move, because copies are going to get out. But they're doing everything they can. And apparently they didn't do this. Although I don't know that I trust that, they being the major motion picture companies.
Studio, yeah.
I don't know that I don't. They might just be saying, oh, well, yeah, we've been following that too. Weird, huh?
Thousands of pirates tricked into downloading fake Tenet torrents. So Torrent Freak talks about how all of the torrents are fake, but Warner Brothers is still sending takedown notices to try to take it down. So
because it's all automated.
Yeah, we should send Warner Brothers an invoice and be like protecting the movie from downloading by, fake whatever, and just see.
So it's an interesting way that they do these. You would think it's just malware or whatever, but it's actually not. It's a video file that shows you this message, and it's literally just a video of this. Like 2 hours of this, or however how long the movie is. And then when you go and follow the link in the README, they will try to sell you stuff. The codec will never work because there is no film. That's probably where the malware comes in.
Yeah.
Plus, they'll steal your credit card. So watch out for that, and don't do that. 700 megabyte. Wow, they really lowballed it, didn't they?
Yeah. Don't try to pirate movies online. This is crazy.
At least don't do it on peer-to-peer. And as our cities are burning and the political process is breaking down, and hurricanes are lashing the coasts, and that pandemic. God bless the people in law enforcement. They are doing the stuff that matters, the things that are important. Number one on the list.
U.S. indictments and raids of piracy group members in The Scene throw top-tier piracy world into chaos. Most of these raids were in the Netherlands and Sweden, I think was what it said. So
Norway and Sweden.
A lot of people involved with piracy have been arrested and or servers seized and shut down. So this is a coordinated effort, an international interdisciplinary team. I wonder when they're going to make a Bond film about the people that took down international piracy.
I'm going to sleep so much better tonight.
Yeah.
Knowing that problem has been solved.
Yeah, definitely won't, have anxious, weird dreams now that I know that this has been taken care of.
Google really enjoys your location data. Really enjoys it. And they've gotten some criticism for that. And so, this past year, couple years, they've said, we're going to give more control to the user. We're going to let you delete some stuff that we store. We're going to let you say no to us. And really, we never had any bad intentions when we were doing that. Now, they still got sued for that. And when someone gets sued, a magical thing happens. Documents come out in court. And oh boy, are they interesting.
Unredacted suit shows Google's own engineers are confused by privacy settings. Users would make a change, but it was quote-unquote so difficult that people wouldn't actually make the change, one employee wrote.
They have a couple more great quotes here.
The current UI feels like it is designed to make things possible, yet difficult enough that people won't figure it out. Some people, including even Googlers, don't know that there's a global switch and a per-device switch. Indeed, we aren't very good at explaining this to users. Add me to the list of Googlers who didn't understand how this worked and was surprised when I read the article, they're talking about the AP article, which we'll talk about in a minute, that we shipped a UI that confuses users. And finally, I agree with the article. Location off should mean location off, not except for this one case or this case or that other case.
So yeah, there was an article that pointed out all these things, and this goes on to explain from the court case how it was DEFCON 1 at Google as soon as that happened, and they began to have daily meetings and to just pinpoint accuracy track the level of engagement of the internet with these articles. And they figured out after like 10 days, they're like, oh, it's all good, everybody's forgotten. Go back to tracking locations.
Yeah. This is also a good thing to point out for, relatively minor conspiracies. Oh, it's a conspiracy inside Google. Everybody is aware to the extent that, they're tracking or whatever. They're really not. Like, if you look at it, there's a little bit of a placebo. There's a little bit of an assumption. Like, if you're a Googler and it's like, yeah, we did a thing to address that. That came up in meetings. I went to the meetings. It's totally fine. But then it never ends up being implemented exactly the way that was described in the meeting.
Well, these are presumably smart people, right? A Google engineer should be a pretty smart person.
But they didn't figure it out until it was pointed out.
But those quotes... Yeah, what'd you say, Krista?
So have you seen Google Analytics? Have you tried using it?
Well, okay. Yeah, but that's an argument. But I'm saying, like, those quotes sound like they're drinking so much Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, there must be a mistake here.
I'm not the baddie.
Guys, something's wrong. We're tracking location no matter what.
I have been on projects that are really big and you have a lot of different people working on it. And so, like, I understand sometimes compromises are made and then, like, the UI can get a little weird because of that. But, like, how does Google mess up that bad, though?
Oh, this was absolutely
unless it's
malicious.
intentional.
Yeah, it was, but it wasn't a conspiracy among all those engineers. Was my point is that it was just one or two people that knew what was going on, and there was just enough subterfuge that everybody else didn't really know.
Yeah, they're just like, well, there's compromises that have to be made.
But how could you? There's a level of willful ignorance there.
Maybe if the Googlers that watch our program are tuned into that, maybe they will be more cognizant of that in the future.
Or they'll not say anything because they live in California where it's really expensive and they need that Google job to continue affording the cardboard box they live in.
Or Google will find out about that's happening on the campus and they will delete our channel.
One or the other.
So
Patreon and Flowplay, please.
So yeah, we talked about this botnet before. There's a few more details here, but the point is, the botnets are alive and well.
A new botnet is currently targeting millions of servers. So this botnet, it lives in memory. There's not really a lot of signs of infection. Just double check and make sure that your Linux machines are all up to date, and look for any unusual network traffic to and from your machine on the border if you possibly can.
And wow, you know what? I didn't mean to leave this as the last story. Usually I like to get something with a little punch to it as the last story, but I kind of like bubble sort my way down in terms of like, oh, this needs to go here. This is interesting. We can put this toward the end. And this was literally the least interesting thing on the docket today. Really kind of a non-story. Should have deleted it.
Zoom outage halts classes and meetings. This is just good old internet hiccup blip, like a routing issue. It wasn't even really Zoom's fault, but Zoom had an outage that lasted a few hours, and it was inconvenient for a few people enough that it made the headlines. Oh well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not allowed to happen. Not in this world. It's our only source of communication.
It's our only source of human contact. Well, we're here for you. You're watching this video, and it's just like you're here with us.
Krista, give us one more shot at that. There it is.
Beautiful pumpkin. Look at him. Glorious.
Oh, you know what? Let's also take a look at... now, here's an engagement challenge, chat. Before you...
oh, yeah, we were talking about this before we started.
Before you reveal... What am I doing? Oh, yeah, here we go.
Find the picture.
So, that thing on the right there. Pause the video after this and comment on what you think that vegetable is. It is a vegetable, I'll give you that much. The thing on the right.
It doesn't look like that.
Can I reveal what it is now, if they've paused?
Yes, they should have paused at this point.
That is a cucumber. And every cucumber, we've only gotten 2 because I planted it in too small of a pot, but every cucumber we've gotten off that plant has been like very round and rotund. So I don't know what's
up. It's a
mutant. Yeah. I think it's just an unhealthy plant, but Ryan thinks it's not a cucumber.
It looks like a squash.
I haven't cut into it yet, so I don't know what it tastes like or anything. So
you're gonna cut into it. It's just spiders are just gonna spill out of it.
No. That's all. That's my fruits from the garden this week.
All right, it's looking
delicious.
Good. Are we gonna dehydrate all those?
I don't know what we're gonna do with all that yet. I don't know. The tomatoes, we're getting so many tomatoes. Like, we're having to pick them every day. And at this point, we don't know what to do with them. There's too many. We only planted 4 plants.
That's enough to survive the year.
Yeah.
The week,
maybe. It'll be a fine eating winter.
How many calories is one of them? Like 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not even that.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to next week's crop. You got anything on the horizon for next week coming in?
Just more tomatoes. Just constant tomato. We have a bunch of peppers growing too. We've got like probably 6 or 7 peppers on the plant right now.
All right. Well, tomorrow, I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. It's going to be business and something.
We'll see.
Business and existential dread. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see then. Chris is a little too close to you this week. Everybody's always angry when Chris is not centered.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's not you. It's your square. The table's been moved. All right. See you tomorrow.
Bye.